So with some of the visual training, we'll talk about the sensory station a little bit because for me, I mean, we don't have one personally in the clinic, but that tool is remarkable. So it's pretty much, to describe it, and you can fill in whatever I'm missing, but to describe it, it's kind of a big TV. I would say, what is it, like 50-inch or something?
55-inch, yep.
55-inch. So it's somewhere where like you have all these different games, I guess, or assessments. And for me, I'm not the biggest guy, but it's using like pretty much my whole wingspan to reach to the opposite corners and stuff. And of course, it's a touch screen that you're touching and doing all of these different things based off of the visual challenge that you're trying to train, right? On this sensory station, kind of explain a little bit of how you've come to develop the software and how it has evolved over the years since you first created that sensory station.
So the sensory station was obviously created out of a lot of analog tools that were sitting in a room. So it was a small room with big hard button systems, let's say. Like, so instead of a touch screen, there was a big board with actual 3D buttons you had to press in, right?
Yes.
And so those analog systems were obviously big, and it took some kind of expert to run them. So the idea, like the evolution of that, was how do we make this smaller and easier and combine them all? And then digitizing was the way to do that. So the sensory station was created trying to bring all those concepts from that room into that one space, make it easy to use. And it's been evolving. It's all based on actual research that's been done in the more analog space, and then some of it in the digital space, and using those concepts, those tools that had been proven by research to then use as assessments. Those assessments come with already proven concepts and theories that then were just injected into our system. And we continue to evolve it. And where the evolution really comes from now is not so much in the assessment area, but in the training area. So we have 14 modules. We're just releasing a new one, a 15th one. We have more in the wings and the works that are coming and being released as we go. And so when someone has the station in their area, like, they just keep getting these updates and these modules to just keep providing them newer and better tools, like multiple object tracking, for example. They'll get new tools and different ways of training multiple object tracking that will translate hopefully into their actual functional space.
Yes. And I like how you explain that too, how you're always updating the system, and you have all of these different tools for them to train. For me personally, I think from a user standpoint, the one thing about the games is that you've made it very effective, but it's also very user friendly, meaning that it's very fun and it does get addicting to a certain point, especially when you start to see the improvement. Now, on that note, I want to touch on a little bit with those facilities that you do have the sensory station in. What types of improvements do you see on average? What are some of the big success stories, I guess, that the assessment really caught what area this athlete needs to train? And I'm sure after a few months of training, it really translated into their performance on the field or court. So can you explain a little bit about the average progress or what you have seen in other facilities?
And that's a good question, because it's different for different people, right? Every individual, that's like, it's hard to even say with fitness, what's the average, how does that work for everybody? Because it depends on what they're trying to accomplish and what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal stories that we have, and we get inputs all the time on how people are feeling helped by the strobes, which is a big one, a really easy tool. We get tons of stories around those. And we also see it with the station. And so we have some that are on the performance side and some that are on the rehabilitation side, right? So the performance side, we get athletes who have started to, even down to like concentration and focus, like started to learn how to focus better, because when they're in the right mindset and maintaining the right kind of focus and attention, they perform much better. So they start learning how to lock in that attention cycle and what matters by doing some of these tools, right? These modules. And they are kind of gamified for that reason, because we want you to have, be engaged in it, want to be working with it, want to enjoy working with it over and over, and feel the challenge with it and develop over time, right? Just like anything, you don't want it to be really boring and mundane. And so that's why there's lots of options in the way it works. And it does get competitive. There's athletes, let's say, in UFC or boxers who have used it, and and really been able to increase their perception and what's happening and reaction time, and then also speed on just understanding what needs to happen in front of them. There's we've been seeing in some different areas actual reaction time increasing after using these tools for several weeks and blending them in. So reaction time would blend into the military space, for example. And some groups have done their own kind of testing and seen the ability, like a 10% increase on their traditional reaction time tests. So, again, that's like that plays into sport on how quickly you perceive something and then can now do something about it. So small tie-ins around that then translate back into the field is what we're seeing.
And you definitely have done that with the sensory station, because like to elaborate a little bit more, how you said actually at the University of Hawaii, we have one of those old light boards that you have to actually touch. Yeah. And you look at that and you think like, okay, we do this for maybe about a month and then we'll probably be bored out of our mind. But for you have the digital, like your hand-eye coordination or your reaction test or even the depth perception, the object tracking. It's so different every time because it's like a game, you said. And because of that, you get to try to really, it's not always the same patterns that you're looking at. You have to really react. You can change correct me if I'm wrong, you can change the objects, you can change the color scheme, you can change the contrast. You have all of these different dimensions that really make the game fun, but also it makes you want to compete. And like you said, focus on what the task at hand is. So it has become a tool that, the first time that I got on it, I was thinking this has so much possibilities to actually elevate that piece of training that is missing. Yes.
Yep. No, totally. Even like the backgrounds, say on a lot of the modules, you can do movies behind them. So you can put your own movie in, you can put your own targets in, let's say for hand-eye coordination. With one team out of fun, there was a player that tended to get really animated. Right. And so I actually made the targets a happy version of them and an angry version of them. And the angry was the go, no, you don't want to hit that one. And, yes, you have to react and decide which face is the right face to hit. And that was mixed into a big field of play. Right. So the other players are going out there laughing and just having fun trying to like not hit the angry dude all the time and avoid that. Every time they hit them, they get a penalty, right? Like their points go down. So it's fun to try to mix that in because now you're starting to get into really recognition and decision making, and you can tie in the environment that they're in a little bit more and actual real concepts that might make sense to them. Mm-hmm. And it does blend in. And there is some research that came out from Duke. Again, all the research that's on our website is all third party. We don't drive it all. We don't develop it. We don't pay for it. And so that's, it's all people who are interested in this science and who are trying to figure out, do these tools work and how do they work? And Duke had some research that showed that using the strobes, another tool of ours called the Synchrony, which is like a light rail type device, which is timing and saccadic eye movement. And also our app and, the training app, just using those three tools increased two of the three main hitting factors that they look at for baseball hitters in D1 baseball. So, and that was a significant improvement. So we see that there's a direct translation from vision training into skill performance, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the key, is that it's vision training, doing some work with your vision will translate into some type of benefits inside of your environment because you're bettering the tool, right? Yeah. Which is your vision. You're bettering the processing, and that then will play somehow into your environment.